Okay, sorry about that. So this is going to be part two. I'm not sure what it cut off, but yeah. So the last bit was the fact that we've just added the 25,000 for that new player. As you can see, the the wages has changed from what the starting was, and now you can see that because we've added an additional player, it's costing us an extra 1.3 million per year just on wages. So that's why it's important to make sure the starting budget is exactly the same as the wages that you've got accumulated for the players at the start of the season. So yeah, so that's what will happen with the wages there. Let's just remove all these details. Okay, so moving down like this, you've got this section on the players. So what I've done, I've added in on this on the overall. So it's going to check on the, I think it's on the starting overall, for any players that are over 5 overall over what your club is. At the top, you're writing your overall for your clubs at 77. So let's say you've got a player who's 85, just as an example. It'll say that you've got one star player. You're only allowed one. So if your players are advancing well beyond your club and you get two, it means you're going to have to let one go in the next window, or one of them is going to want to leave as soon as possible because they've outgrown your club. One is allowable because sometimes a player does like the club and they're enjoying their football, they're important. That's fine, but once you get more than one, you need to start trying to move them players on and also get the money for them. Crucial. I've given an allowance of 6. By the way, these numbers are also completely interchangeable. If you decide you don't like them, maybe they're a bit too high. If you want to have 5 crucial, you'll come up there, just press OK. It's not a problem. You can change whatever you want. These don't have actual formulas, so there's no problem changing them. That's why they're in the white box. But at the moment, what I've put is 1 star player, 6 crucial, 12 important, 15 on rotation, and then these, as many as you like for sporadic and prospect, because usually they're your youth players are coming through, so there's no problem there. Look, if there's anything that you can put in, it's just a case of copy and paste. So if this player is crucial, you've got 3 crucial players, the game will count that for you. Same for rotation. So rotations and importance, as you see, it's starting to count, so you can keep track and make sure. What this does, this gives you a balance, so you don't just have a god squad of players all in 90 in every position, including your backup. Realistically, most squads will have is they'll either have 2 players of a similar level, but are probably at the same level as the club. So let's say 2 right backs are both at 77, 76. Or they'll have a player who is slightly better than the club, so maybe like a 79, and then the other player, because he's so good, you won't have another 79 player, you'll have a 73 player as your backup right back, and he's there to cover the games when he needs rotation. So that's why the squad roles are important. It kind of keeps the balance of the squad, makes you think as well, not just great at signing, okay, I need a new right back, so you don't just sign somebody for like the same or higher overall that you've already got. Sometimes you'll actually go out, and because of the money, you might have to buy a player who's lower overall, but just fits the squad in what you need. Oh, well, I only need him for 10 games a season, so a rotation is probably going to be better for me rather than a player who wants to play every single game and be crucial. So it's just something to think about, and it just adds that little bit of depth to the squad and makes you think a bit more. These will count up for every players you've got transfer listed, sold. Like I said, let's say you've got a player who's injured for a long period of time, 3 months, 6 months, 7 months. You can just pop it in the status there. It'll count it for you, and it also deducts from your availability. Just because if you suddenly get a lot of injured players, you can then see on here, oh well, I haven't got enough players, I need to fill it out. So you might have to go into your youth squad and promote, and that gives you time to do that, because the game won't tell you that you don't have enough available players until game day, and then you try to play the game and it tells you got forfeit because you haven't got enough players. At least by having this, you might have a few days to either go out and sign a free agent, do something to actually get the game to work for you. If this is probably important for the smaller clubs. The bigger clubs might have that problem because they usually have a squad size of about 35, 40 players. But the smaller, lower rated clubs will have a struggle to sometimes reach 18, depending on how many youth players you can bring in. So that's why having the injury section is probably useful, just to kind of view what's going on. Loaned out. exactly the same. You just add in the loaned out if the player's gone out on loan. But what I'll tend to do for this is I'll also put it across the homegrown and registration. This will stop counting for you, so you don't. So you can see if the player's out on loan, they're not registered, and they're not counted towards your homegrown quota because they're gone. We've sold. What I tend to do is I will put it across the wage, the contract role, the contract length, and these three. The reason I do that is because A, it's going to tick off the wages for you, so then you don't. So then your budget's going to go up because it's reduced the wage that was on there before. It'll tick off the contract role, so it deducts what was on there before. So that's crucial there. So let's put sold. Numbers go down to 2, and the contract length. I just do it just so I don't. When I'm looking down to see whose contracts are running up, I need to renew soon. I don't look at it. I can just see sold, and I don't have to worry about it. Cross status and homegrown and registered is just to reduce the availability numbers again. Just chuck it in just so you know what's happening with your registration numbers. Loaned in, same as loaned out. I only put in the status. Loan listed and transfer listed. Once again, just stick them in the status, and that's it. And that's just a good way of keeping track for the squad. That's just the squad for this season. Each season you'll change this up, so just be mindful of that. So underneath you have the contract renewal calculator. So this is when you try to renew contracts with your players. If you've got a player who's refusing to sign a contract, what you can do is you can actually renew a contract with them. This is a built-in rule, but you have to give them a substantial pay raise. And what substantial means is, I say, it's a minimum of 40% increase. So even if their overall has gone up by 1, on the game they'll tell you it's going to cost you like an extra 5k. It's nothing major. But because of the rules that we've implemented, we're going to say a 40% increase, which is a substantial amount, and you won't realise how much it is until you actually put the wages on the calculator and work it out, and how much they're going to want anyway. Especially if it's a high-rated player, it's almost going to break your bank, and that's when the decision times are coming. Should you renew, or should you just sell the next transfer window? And it really will help that. In terms of the renewal contract, the renewal calculator, the way it works is you have to make sure that your current overall's at the top, otherwise it will mess it up massively. You put the player's overall in, so currently 77, let's say the player's 79. He has more than 2 compatriots. You're not a Elite Heritage Club. Player is not over 30. And the way this works is he's been at the club for how many years? So let's say the player's been at the club for 2 years. It's not a problem. He's still quite new. He's still quite enjoying his football. There won't be any problem. After 3, you actually start getting a negative feedback. The reason being, after 4 or 5 years, players tend to kind of start getting the itch and wanting to move on for a new challenge, unless you're growing. I mean, if after 4 years you haven't really grown and the player hasn't really grown, it's still the same. So as you can see, let's say they've been there for 3 years already. The next season you haven't achieved anything, you still did the exact same thing. Your club's still 77. When you get to 44, he's going to think, I want a new challenge, so then he's going to want to move on. So that's what it's in. It also increases for every time the longer they're there for. So once you start reaching 7 to 8 years, it's really hard to get them to renew unless your club is jumping up massively and you're achieving big things and you're doing things. So it's always a reason to progress, to make sure your players want to stay, otherwise they're going to want to leave. When they don't want to renew, it doesn't mean you have to sell. It just means they're not going to renew their contract. You can take the risk and wait the following season in hope that you improve dramatically, that they'll all of a sudden want to stay, or you can decide now's the time to cash in on that player. So that just helps with that. So let's say the player's been there for 2 years. Is he a current player? Yep, he came through the academy. We're not going to give him a release clause because we see at the moment it's still saying realistic, and we're not in any of those. Let's say the player's been here for 5 years and they're not an academy player. You can see it's unrealistic. Let's say we're going to give him a release clause. All of a sudden it's unrealistic because, yes, although you're saying to the player, yeah, he wants to move, you're saying, okay, well, we'll give you the move on the basis of you will sign and we'll give you a release clause. The player's going to be more inclined to do that because he's going to think to himself, well, that's fine, then I'll carry on playing, and then as soon as a big club comes in for the players' release clause, I'm off. So they will do that. So when you do the release clause, when it's agreed that you're giving a player release clause, whether it's a signing, a renewal, anything like that, always use a transfer calculator as you would. Whatever the final valuation is, that is what the release clause will be. So if the player was 20 million, his overall is 79, we said, and his age is 28. So as you can see, it's 24 million. So that's what his release clause will be for renewing his contract. Which you're probably going to think that's not a lot, but that's the point. The player, he wants to guarantee that if a club comes in for him, he can move. And for 24 million, at least you're getting the top valuation that you should be getting for that player. Obviously, if the player's 21, the value is going to go up to 28 million. So there is substantial reasons for the player's age and differences. But yeah, it's mainly majority just for release clauses to always go with what the final valuation is. Also, what I'd say is when a player does get a release clause activated, you've got a chance to try to renew again by doing that at the same time. But there's a reason. You've already given them a release clause, so it's unlikely they're going to want to sell it anyway. So I tend to just, if someone's had a release clause accepted, I tend to let them go. It's time for them to move on. They clearly want to go. So yeah, that's how that calculator works for renewals. Next on the right is the tracking list. So this is for your stats tracking. So if you want to track how many Premier League appearances, how many FA Cup, League Cup, the Europa Conference League, Europa League, Champions League. You can track all their stats here. Nice little calculator will total it up for you, so it'll tell you how many total appearances for the season. And this can be used in conjunction with your player stat tracker. So what you can do is build yourself a little formula to just go through each season and adding up the total appearances for you so you can see. But that's something additional. If you need help with that, reach out, I'll help you, but that's just a little help bonus. And last is injury list. So this is just to keep track of your injuries for the season. Once again, optional. I just tend to do it because I like to see how many injuries I'm getting. If I'm not getting a lot of injuries, then I'll bump it up on the sliders to kind of increase that, the severity or the frequency. And that's kind of how I'll just kind of monitor the injuries that way. And that is all for that sheet. So what I'll do at the start of each season, before I've done anything, I'll right click on here and go to duplicate. This will make the next season for me. Just rename it. So 2024/2025. So as you can see, I've got my second season ready without having to fill anything else in. So that's why I do it at the start. That needs to be removed. And then you've got a nice fresh page to continue going on with for the next season. So before I start each season, just do that, and then your stat tracker once again just go over the multiple sheets, and you just keep doing that until you've finished your career. That way, you don't have all these pages of emptiness. You can just say, "I'm only doing 2 seasons career, so you only need 2 seasons." If you want to go for the 15 season, just keep going each time, and that is pretty much it. That's how the sheet kind of all works. Look, so there's a data sheet there. I don't really want to go in there because I don't want to crash it. If you have any questions or anything else on that, there is a Q&A section on the Discord of like most frequent questions and answers. I'll try and keep that up to date as questions come in and fill in as much as I can. But hopefully these 2 videos that we've just done, I know they're quite long, so just skip through what you want and you can always go back and look. Will just give you a better overview and understanding of how this sheet works and how myself have been using it to kind of make EAFC/FIFA a more enjoyable game. Yeah, hopefully as the game continues, I'll add more stuff. I'm open to suggestions. Fill in the Discord. Offer things you might think might help improve the game, and we'll get to it. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been helpful. Yeah, best of luck to your careers, and speak to you soon. Bye bye.